Okay, well, it's 2 minutes after 2. Welcome. You are looking at a high shot from above the fourth floor of Mann Library, where we are going to do a tour of the new communication department. Hello there, if you can see me. A little selfie video here. My name is Keith Hannon. I'm with Cornell Alumni Affairs and Development, and I'll be the camera person for this tour of the communication department. And I want to introduce our host from the department itself, Catherine McComas. So let me switch back to my other camera here. Hello, Catherine. How are we today?
I'm great, Keith. Yeah, glad the sun came out on this leap year. And I'm happy to show you our new space that we moved into in August.
Okay, so here we are. We're on the fourth floor.
Yeah, so this was basically part of Mann's Library re-envisioning how they wanted to integrate more with academic departments in their new space. And so what was previously here, I'll just sort of lay the context, were stacks which have been relocated into the archives, and there were some student spaces which have been relocated down into the third floor. We had this space, we share the fourth floor with plant sciences, but we had this space entirely sort of gutted and then created with our vision sort of where I'm going to show you. And some of the things I'm really excited about is that we really pushed the envelope in terms of thinking differently about how academic units are designed on Cornell's campus, and we had a lot of creativity and flexibility to do this. And so that's why I wanted to start from the outset, because here you'll see what we call the storefront. We needed to integrate within the structure of Mann Library and the design, and it went through a large renovation about 10 years ago. So we needed to work within that, but we are our own academic unit within the College of Ag and Life Sciences, just also within Mann Library building. So the Department of Communication, we worked with a graphic design firm called Poulin and Morris out of New York City to do the graphics. The architecture work itself was done by JMZ out of Glens Falls, New York. So we'll head on in here. And so here we are in the front office, and I guess one of the things that we designed this again with the architects, but we had a very active building committee that worked closely together and worked for many hours to come up with the ideas behind the concept and the design and the schematics. And we went out onto the internet and we captured pictures of things that we really were inspired by in different organizations or buildings around the world, and we created this Pinterest site. And we shared the Pinterest site with our architects, and so they had an idea of what we were really going for. And so some of the neat things about this space are that if we went to the Pinterest site, we could see elements of this space, including these baffles above the reception area desk and some of the graphics around, which were things that were really inspired by going to a lot of industry sites and company sites and looking at their headquarters and trying to find things that were forward-thinking, modern, but also allowed for some nimbleness and flexibility. So as we come into this main area, some of the things that will immediately sort of strike you are the open ceilings. We wanted to have the ceilings open to the top because, again, that provides a level of modern edginess. But we used baffles and these clouds that hang down to also to define the different planes of the space and also for acoustic purposes too. And so as we go around, you'll see that there's a mixture of sort of a modern feel, but also we wanted to bring in the wood, and so the depth of sort of a walnut and the warmth of the wood, which helps to offset the steel and the pipework with some of the warmth and the gravitas of Cornell and an Ivy League universities. So here we go into the main area, and see we have a nice monitor there that shows elements of faculty and undergraduate and graduate work, as well as staff directory. We also have a wall, which we refer to as the Faces of Communication, which are alumni and friends and students that have come through our department, and also metaphors that are associated with communication, and also images of some of our work. And so we had a similar type of a display in Kennedy Hall where we were for about 25 years, and people really liked it, and so we brought it over and recreated it here. And so it's kind of a fun way to come in and to acknowledge the people that really
Is there a
like the
chance to
space.
earn your way onto that wall now, or is that pretty much set in stone?
You know, things might change. This is sort of my, we'll at least have it here for a while. There are other ways to earn your way onto a wall, and I'm happy to talk about that.
That's right.
But and we got permission from everybody before we put their face up there, but I think everybody is pretty happy to be up there. But we have members of our advisory board up there, Rob Rosenberg, Colleen Fahey-Rush, Ryan Silbert, and then some of our current PhD students and students who have recently graduated. So, and even the daughter of one of our staff members who's playing with an iPad, Harper. So,
Never too young for the iPad.
so let me walk you into this main area, which we refer to as the hub. It just sort of stuck. It's not the most creative of words, but this is, I guess, just to kind of give you some more background, one of the things that was really important to us is that we create a space where people can gather and interact. And so throughout this space, there are spaces for informal collaborations and touchdown space. We created this as a space for our undergrads. We never had a place where our undergrads could come and be with us, as well as our graduate students and faculty and staff to get together and hold informal meetings or to eat. And so it was a conscious design to give over this space, but we wanted to make sure that it was going to be well used, because you don't give over this amount of space and have it be empty. Right. And I'm happy to see that today on a Monday it seems to be picking up around noon as people are meeting for lunch or having teaching meetings. And so it's really been an intent to draw people here. And other elements of this, and I'll just kind of take you here, this gives we're kind of happy about this. We purposely put in a medallion of man's logo here, which just again represents our connection to this library, and it's got the wheat sheaves and the papyrus there. And, but we're underneath this, which is a lighting feature. As we developed this space, it's circular. We knew we wanted to have a focal sort of, I guess, chandelier or lighting piece in the middle. And so we worked with a company in Australia actually to design this within our budget. It's called Yellow Goat Designs, and so we found the fixture online, and we worked with them to create it into the space. And what we really like is the feeling of movement. And so we specifically asked them to have pieces that were not a part of the circle, but were flying in to, again, symbolize the creativity and the collaboration and the coming together of ideas. And so this is called the Nest, or Convergence, if you will. And we were just really thrilled about how it turned out. And if you stand under here, you really get an interesting echo. We have to create some sort of lore about it.
I like the nest.
Yeah, it's
appropriate.
It really turned out wonderfully.
Just don't let the Lab of Ornithology steal it from you.
Well, to the extent that any of these ideas, I mean, the Lab of O is beautiful, but the extent that any of these ideas might be picked up and used in other parts of Cornell. I mean, we borrowed from these ideas. This is down in the Bassett Collaborative area down on the second floor of MAN has these types of booths. They're called Agati booths. And so we took their design and put in a couple up here where students can come in and plug in and work on group projects or papers together, again, our undergrads. But we've got graduate students and faculty that are using these things too. This is, we call this the family table. And this and the piece along the shoreline, and I'll come to that in a moment, were designed as areas for people to come and sit. And when we hold events here, I mean, it's just packed. We had an event last Friday, a hobnob in the hub, we called it, with Man Library. We invited up their staff and had about 50 people here. And we wanted to, again, thank them for putting up with our construction, but also just to be good neighbors. And then this is part of, so with this space and the idea of trying to think differently about how we design spaces and think differently about communication and think collaboratively, other elements are that how to spur creativity and also some fun. And so here's another one of our design elements, which is the magnetic poetry wall, we call it refrigerator poetry, where we have a lot of words that can reflect things that we do. We actually pulled the nouns and the verbs from our own faculty research and have it here to invite people to come in and to create and to play. And so, again, it represents our interest in having a space that's welcoming, that's fun, that people want to stay in, and that can also spur some additional thinking. So we call this the words of communication wall. And so, just as an FYI, we've only been here since August, and we're still putting some of the final touches on this space, but this was something that was designed or put up in December.
Just going to take a break and let people know that are watching that they can ask Catherine any questions you want about the space just by utilizing the little chat box next to the video screen that you're watching from right now. So go ahead and ask any questions about this new look and quite hip Department of Communication.
Thanks. Our kitchen, it's a beautiful kitchen. It's a lot neater than the kitchen when it was behind closed doors. But you know, every department has a heart. Every home has a heart, which is often its kitchen. And so I would be remiss to not point out the functional kitchen. So I'm going to take you to this other aspect, which is what we refer to as the shoreline. And this is from, again, this idea of thinking differently. When we first got the plans for this space, it had all the faculty offices against the windows. And that just didn't seem right because, as you see, there's got this beautiful overview of Beebe Lake and the trees, and in the summertime it feels like you're in a treehouse. In the wintertime when the snow is falling, it's just really magical. And so to only give this to faculty seemed not right. And so what we created was the shoreline. The idea, you know, in a beach or in a shoreline, you have everybody gets to enjoy the shoreline. And so, you know, at first people were like, oh, you know, I want a window. But now, these are all faculty offices along this wall and then going back the other way. People actually have more than just a small window. They have this panorama of these windows, and nobody has felt like they got deprived of a window. But then everybody gets to enjoy the view and the natural light that comes through. And you know, with long Ithaca winters, we need as much natural light as possible. And so we have 22 faculty offices on this space, and I'd say about 13 are on the shoreline. We have some on the perimeter, and I'll walk you over to them. But what it allowed for is some flexibility in how we designed this space. And that's another thing about this, I guess the design, is that flexibility is a key principle. We have some dedicated research labs, but we also have a lot of flexible meeting spaces where people can come and reserve in real time these spaces to sit down with their research groups or their TA groups. And you can reserve it. I'll show you, you know, you can reserve it in real time, or you can go on your computer to do it. But not everybody needed a dedicated space. And so by sort of freeing up some of this, we were able to design more creatively about it, rather than sort of dedicating them. I need to have this 500 square feet, you know, for the next 30 years.
Right.
It's like, I may need this space for 6 months, and then I don't need it. And I think that that's built up through a lot of trust in our colleagues and in our collaboration and in the process, so that when you need it, you will have it. But if you don't need it, you don't need to just sort of claim it and then not use it. So I guess that, again, reflects the spirit of our department. So I'm actually going to walk you down this way. And we'll come to one of the first of the sort of our flex spaces, and this is the most low-tech of them. We affectionately refer to it as the glass box. But it's, again, if you need a low-tech meeting space, and it's, you know, you can't really argue with the view. And so this is one where you can just come and reserve it in real time. We have these nifty little iPad minis here. You can just come and say use now and add a local reservation. And working with a small startup company called Roomzilla to do this. And haven't had any problems with the iPads walking away. People were concerned about that at first. Here's my office. Another thing that you'll note is this principle of visibility. And we designed this space with a lot of glass because when we were in Kennedy Hall, as are a lot of offices, they're behind solid walls and behind steel doors. And so we might have been there, but you might not have known it because everybody was behind doors. And the research was also behind doors. And so as a matter of principle, we wanted to be more visible. We wanted to be able to see the activity and to see the research. And so all the faculty offices have that. That said, people do need privacy at times. And so I'll show you, we designed a 2-layer curtain system where if you still want to have the natural light, but don't want to completely block out, you can put this first layer over that's got the gray on the inside and then the orange on the outside for the pop of color. And then when you want total opacity, you can pull that layer shut and then you can be completely private in here. And so we gave faculty the option to have a little bit or full. And of course, when we got over here for the first 3 months, we didn't have any curtains, and so we kind of got used to having it be more visible. But it's in the end, it's sort of worked out nicely because it allows people to have a choice. And so here again is my office, which gives you an example of some of the spaces that are along the shoreline and also the acoustics, because with the open ceilings, people can say it could be really loud, but we really work to have acoustic integrity when you're inside your offices.
Do you find that the glass offices, do you think that helps the students feel like faculty are more approachable?
I think so. And I think it's also really nice because you can have a private conversation with your door closed with a student. And sometimes it's a little bit awkward to have a closed door conversation with a student behind solid walls. And so it's also nice to have that openness if you want to. And I think approachability, I mean, that's another fundamental aspect of who we are. So you get the idea of the different colors. And I think that the curtains have been a hit. And so again, coming along the shoreline, I'll take you down to another one of our flex spaces. This is a space that just got used, so it's not quite as neat as I would prefer. But we have this space, and then on the other side are 2 corners I can call the twins, the northwest and the northeast meeting space. And they are available. We have some of our grad seminars in here, but we also have research team meetings here. We've got that handy little iPad here that you can book the room, and then we've got the technology through here and the whiteboard. And so, over here, see this technology, it's called ClickShare, and it allows somebody to come in with their computer and you can put this into the USB port and click, and your screen will go up on the monitor, and this can allow for up to 4 screens being on the monitor. We've got the whiteboard paint. We have whiteboard paint throughout the space, and people love it. Faculty have it in their offices. Some of our faculty wish that they could have just painted their whole office in whiteboard paint. But they can also write on the walls, the glass walls, and that's fine too. So the technology, again, allows for some nimbleness since it's Wi-Fi and not a lot of wires. So carrying on, come to some other, we have little nooks and places. So this is one of our collaboration houses. This is another kind of hidden, not so hidden, it's a little off the beaten path, but a nice collaboration lounge that anybody can come and sit and work with their whiteboard, or they can read. I call it the rock garden just because I think the furniture is kind of pebbly. And again, this is all whiteboard So it can really allow for storyboarding, brainstorming of team activities, and anybody's able to come and sit in that space. These are also, we chose these, we found these down in the second floor of Mann, and really like the idea. It's sort of the kind of cocoon type of chairs. And after, we have our dissertation defenses and things in the conference room that I'll show you about, and we're often excusing students to wait for a few minutes and go outside and say that they can sort of sit in the cocoon chair and relax. It's sort of got this interesting acoustic aspect to it. And I want to point out here that we do have some faculty offices that are on the perimeter, and again, that allowed for some flexibility. And so some of our spaces, space for emeritus professors. So I'll take you into, this is our conference room, and we were really pleased with this because we never had a conference room in Kennedy Hall. And so we created this, again, and have the big monitor to be able to interact with colleagues who aren't here through Skype. Our department is currently in the process of hiring somebody for Cornell Tech, and so this would enable that person to feel very much a part of this community when they're here. And so this can sit 24 faculty around the table, and then another 8 on this side. And we wish we could have gotten everybody around the table, but we had to work within some space constraints. But we particularly designed this table so that it's, when you're up here on the camera, you can see everybody there, so it's purposely not rectangular. And so this has been a lot of fun for us to have a real conference space. And yeah, do you have any questions? Okay.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not other than the ones I've asked.
Sure. So this is actually currently looks into the Bailey Horatorium and our neighbors in plant science. We are going to be covering this with some graphics, and then this is going to be our donor recognition wall. And so you asked earlier about how do you get you may not be able to get your face on the Faces of Com, but you can get your name on the donor recognition wall if you're so inclined. And that will be on those panels there, and that will be installed by April 8th, which is our grand opening celebration. And so the next part that I'm going to show you, this is the grad corridor, which we call the grad corridor. And in Kennedy Hall, our graduate students, we have about 36 PhD students. They were all on the second floor, and the faculty were on the third floor. Now we're commingled. And so we'll walk down and see different offices on either side of the space. And some of them have 3 to 4 desks, and some of them have 8. And the larger ones are for the newer cohorts, the first and second years. And then when they get to their dissertating phase, they go into the smaller rooms. And the great thing about this is that it's enabled much more interaction between faculty and graduate students to have us all on the same floor together. And since they are colleagues and our collaborators, it's also very efficient
Yeah.
too. So I'll just sort of walk us down the grad corridor and see. That's just a meeting space for some of the larger cohorts. And these are, again, some graphics that have been designed through our graphic design artists, which are repeated throughout the space. When we put this up, the students affectionately started to refer to these as steam rooms. Feel like they could write on the inside. So, and so this is another one of our sort of flex meeting spaces where somebody can reserve a space. Here you can see an example of what some of the grad offices look like on the inside. And as people move in and sort of make them more their home or more their personality, that will happen. And Then coming down here, we've got some more faculty offices along the corridor. And then I'm going to take you over into this area here as we walk around. You can kind of think of it as a research hub. That's where we have some of our dedicated research labs. And so I'll walk you through some of those as we go. Some of them the curtains are drawn because they're experiments in progress. And this is Poppy McLeod's group lab. Here are a few short-term carols that can be reserved for postdocs or visiting faculty for periods of time. Because from time to time we have faculty visiting from other institutions, and that's another one of our flex meeting spaces that it looks like somebody's currently using. So we'll walk around here. This is
I'm thinking there must be some sort of studies done that imply how mood helps performance. And it seems like this space would be very good for mood.
Thanks. Yeah, well, it certainly was a change from Kennedy Hall, which in and of itself wasn't horrible. We had windows and but it was very traditional. And I think for the flavor of the types of work that we do, to have that space that, again, fosters creativity and collaboration and fun and has the brightness and the light and the pops of color, it does enhance. It makes people more likely to want to come in to the office, too. And when you don't want to have a space that discourages people from coming in. So.
Do you get any pushback on going non-traditional?
No, I think that people maybe were willing to give us a little bit more latitude because we're a Department of Communication, and the industries that our students will go work for, startups, tech, new media, public relations, they look like these. They look like this. And we just had a group of students, undergrads, go on a career trip to New York City, and they came back and were like, all the places that we visited look like your space. And so when we're recruiting undergraduates or recruiting faculty and graduate students, to have that type of energy and modernity and nimbleness, I think is a reflection that we're not sort of mired in the past, but we're forward thinking. The second is that we were able to, we put up an endowment that we had in the department to pay for more than 75% of what was done here. And so whereas we had to work within parameters of the university and everything had to get approved, I felt like at some point we're like, well, we're kind of putting the bill on this, and this is what we want. So I don't know if our experience would be replicated when people don't have that level of, I don't know if it was a lever to pull, but every now and then we kind of said, yeah, we are paying for this, and this is what we want. But I think that, again, everything had to be approved. Even the donor recognition wall was a little outside of the norm. And all of these things were kind of outside of the norm. And I think that Gates Hall broke some of the barriers in terms of the norm, and Milstein, and the human ecology. And these were all things that we went and took inspiration from in terms of designing the space. And so we could say that we're going to different places, but Cornell has dipped its toe in the water there before. And in the end, I think that everybody that has worked on this project was really proud of it. The contractor, Northland, I really think that they and the architects and the graphic designers went above and beyond because they started to feel a part of something that was different and new, and they wanted to have this as a legacy. And so it is different, but we came in under budget, which is also, I think, you can think differently about how you design a space and not break the bank. And of course, that's important in these fiscally sort of responsible times. So yeah, we didn't really face much pushback. The different color of wood for our desks, in fact, we had to push a little bit on that one, interestingly enough. But let me walk you down here just to show you some of our labs. This is one of our dedicated lab spaces, the social media lab. We're at PI, Natalie Bosarova. They do a lot of work on how people interact on Facebook and Twitter. and other types of social media. So they conduct research in this space. No, please don't go by. And then coming on down, these are experimental carols. So they just have, people can go in here and complete experiments on laptops. They're just single and they're locked because they could be in use. This is another one of our labs, the Intercultural Communication Lab. Sue Fussel's the PI there. They do a lot of work on human-computer interaction and computer-mediated communication. She also has a BEAM robot. Every now and then it comes out. They're interested in how people interact. Do you know BEAMs? The sort of Sheldon on Big Bang Theory has one.
Oh, right.
It comes around, and when the beam comes around and starts moving around the space, it's always a lot of fun because people are interested in how people are interacting through that. And Sue studies how people interact through computer-mediated communication. So those are a couple of our dedicated lab spaces. And then sort of bringing you down here, I'll show you one more space, because I think that it's, this again reflects. Right. This over here. This is a space which, as I mentioned, flexibility and nimbleness and the ability to grow was an aspect that we put in this.
We're at CSCW right now by a beam if you want to pick it
Oh,
up.
really?
We're in the experiment here.
Oh, okay. Do you want to see the?
Sure, let's go see a beam.
Yeah, I'll pause this. I'll bring it back. Leslie is the lab manager.
So this is actually their beam, not ours.
Okay. So you can see a little bit about this.
Coffee outside those doors, rain upstairs, and hope as long as we don't serve these for lunch or for breaks, you'll be able to sort of find your way around using that little monitor.
We also want to point out that our student volunteers, inspired by Carolina and Liz, are wearing these helpful bright red t-shirts so that you can easily find them, ask them any questions you have. If you get lost, they can point you in the right direction. We have nearly 40 student volunteers, so we're really happy for all of these that they provide. And here in the city, of course,
Several beams in there.
Awesome. Thanks. That's awesome. So trying to find out how teams that aren't co-located can interact better together. And so they were studying that right there as they're at a conference. So this is a space that that faculty can reserve for a period of time to run their experiments. We can also hold classes here. In the future, we may end up dividing this for some designated labs, but this is one of two spaces that are these open flex research spaces. I kind of like to think of them as almost black box theater, where you can set up things and use them for a period of time and then break it down if you need to. And so, again, I think it epitomizes the philosophy behind how we design this space. Because the last thing you want to do is design a space and to get there and feel like you suddenly don't have enough space.
Right.
So I think I've pretty much showed you everything at this point of this. We can go back out to the shoreline if you like.
Now, one
or
thing
see
you
anything
mentioned, I
else.
think sometimes it's easy to lose sight of, is not only does this space benefit greatly the current students, but it also has to be a great recruitment vehicle for future students that you're competing for. So they come to a space like this and they're like, wow, like I feel like I'm going to school at Google
Yeah.
kind of thing.
I think that's definitely been the case. I've been having a lot of meetings with students over the past 6 months as they come in and they go through this space, and they may go through some other spaces at Cornell, and they're trying to choose majors, or they're going through other spaces and trying to understand how we are the same or different from other communication departments that they may have seen, or journalism programs. And so when you have this space, which is almost a metaphor for how we are and who we see ourselves or aspire to be, I think that's helpful for the students to understand that when they come here, they can expect things to be a bit differently. They can expect to have interactions. They expect to be welcomed and desired to be here. We have about 50% of our undergraduates participate in research alongside faculty. That's I think something that sets us apart from a lot of our peer communication departments. And so we are actively recruiting undergraduates to work alongside us in our labs. And a lot of programs, they don't even teach their undergraduates, much less really want them to be working alongside their labs. But the students that come are so fantastic. They're clamoring to do it too. So that's exciting, and it also helps with the graduate student recruitment, and as I mentioned, the faculty recruitment too, because we again looked at our peer institutions, our benchmarks, and other than a few places that actually are a school or a college unto themselves, they don't look like we do. And that's, of course, we've never prided ourselves on looking like everybody else. We've prided ourselves on trying to be at the forefront of these things. And so that's kind of fun. And of course, it's always relevant in terms of recruitment and retention and rankings. And I wouldn't call this a game changer for us, because I think our game was going pretty well, but I think it definitely takes things up a notch. So, but the time will tell, and we, as I said, designed this space. We were in our space in Kennedy Hall for 25 years, and I may not be around 25 years to see where we are at that point, but it is something that there's been just an outpouring of pride and I think satisfaction with the space. And granted, when we came in here in August, the space wasn't completely done. We didn't even have doors for about 2 months, and I was so worried that my faculty were going to be horrendously upset with me. But because the space was just so different and people had that trust, it was going to be great. And so we got through it, and now we just get to sit back and enjoy.
Well, it looks like everyone's enjoying it right about now, especially around lunchtime.
So, but we welcome anybody to stop by whenever they're in town.
Yeah. Reunion's
and
coming up
visit.
soon.
We plan to do some type of a tour during reunion, and we are always have our door open and are happy to show off the space. Whether you're connected to communication or not, just come on over and see it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Catherine. This has been great, very informative. This is an incredible space. And yeah, so for the alumni watching, stop on by next time you're on campus.
Thanks for coming.
Come see the nest.
Come see the nest.
There it is. All right. For those interested in more of our live stream tours, we'll be back on the air tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. See you then.